G'day and welcome back to the channel, Ginger Ninja's Movie Reviews. I am the Ginger Ninja and these are my Franchise Friday movie reviews. If you're new to my channel, thank you very much for tuning in, stopping by and checking it out. It is truly appreciated. If you're wondering what Franchise Friday is, well, it's Friday here in Australia, so each Friday I look at a film in a franchise. This month we've been looking at the Wishmaster franchise and we're up to the fourth film in the series, Wishmaster 4, The Prophecy Fulfilled. This one came out in 2002, but before I get into the nitty gritty of it, I do want to say a big thank you to all my new and existing subscribers. I know I say it every week, but I sit here, I talk about these films that I watch, and I just want to say thank you so much for your support. It truly means the world to me. So let's get into this film, right? Now, again, directed by Criss Angel, and I'm going to make that same joke. Not that Criss Angel, not the Mind Freak. So he might have done a better job directing this. Who knows? That's not to say Criss Angel did a bad job, but look, we'll touch on some of that later. The film stars taraspencernairn, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Michaeltrucco, Jason Thompson, Victor and Johnnovak. Now, a couple of those names I do recognise, Michaeltrucco and Victor. Michaeltrucco, I believe he was in Battlestar Galactica, maybe something else, I don't know. Victor I knew from Mutant X and Continuum. I was a huge fan of that film, or that show, I should say. Plus, he's been the host of other things, so I was interested to see him and what his role would be, because IMDb simply lists him as Hunter. Cool. Anyway, this film was directed back-to-back with Wishmaster 3 by Criss Angel, so both films, and it shows. The film, I think there was about maybe a 2-week gap I read between Wishmaster 3 and Wishmaster 4, so they didn't really have a lot of time to, go from one to the other, set up or whatever. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it really does show, unfortunately. But what sets this film apart is the story and parts or aspects of the story. Now, it follows the story of Lisa, and that's played by taraspencernairn. I have not seen her in anything else that I'm aware of, but basically what happens is her boyfriend is paralyzed. Now, it's a really interesting introduction to these characters, because we see them, they're buying their first house, they're moving in, everything's good, everything's right, they're in love, Then we skip ahead 3 years and shit's hit the fan. There's been an accident, he's paralyzed, she's seeing a lawyer to get a settlement from whoever caused the accident, the company, the brake company, or something with the brake company. But of course, she accidentally releases the Djinn, and fun and hilarity ensue. But it's the core story that attempts to stand apart from earlier entries by leaning more into the emotional weight of Lisa's dilemma, particularly her desire to see Sam, who she loves, even though he's a complete arsehole through most of the film, her desire to see him healed. But it's also how the Djinn twists her and others' wishes. And this setup does offer a lot of potential for a deeper emotional engagement with her character than the standard be careful what you wish for plot. But does it really do enough? Let's find out.
Like me, open up your eyes and insert a little rising. You don't have to love me, you don't have to like me. Got enough love in myself, in my psyche. You should have the same in your brain nightly. If you wanna taste, bitch, you can fucking try me. If you wanna hate, bitch, you know where to find me. And if you're going hate this, you can fucking bite me. I'll be cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, not fucking likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running shit right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of...
All right, so let's have a look at the cast. And look, taraspencernairn's portrayal of Lisa is serviceable, but it falls flat during any key moments of emotional intensity. You know, her character is meant to be the emotional anchor of the film, yet her performance rarely rises above the surface, and it makes it difficult to emotionally invest or empathize with her plight. It's not to say she did a bad job, there's just a lack of feeling for her. And this is particularly problematic when, you know, the film hinges on her relationship with both Sam and the Djinn. Speaking of Sam, Jason Thompson's portrayal of him, now, it is slightly more effective because he's able to convey the anger and helplessness of a man whose life has been irrevocably changed. But the script doesn't give him a lot to work with other than being an angry borderline alcoholic. Even once his legs are healed, and yes, he is still in pain, he's kind of just fades into the background for the majority of the film until the final act. John Novak. Look, he's no Andrew Divoff, let's be honest. Andrew Divoff imbued the character with a menacing charm in the first two films, and John Novak's version of the Djinn lacks that malevolent charisma. You know, that's what Andrew Divoff's portrayal had and made it his own. John Novak more comes across, and he does have a lot more in this one than he did in the previous one, but he still comes across as a very generic, cackling villain almost. You know? Taking on the human face of the Djinn is michaeltrucco. Now, this was a vast improvement on the previous entry by Jason Connery, who was just a sleazy, annoying wanker. But it still doesn't have the same weight behind it as, or the gravitas that Andrew Divoff brought to the role in the first two entries. Didn't do a bad job of this one, but it's you watch them, you will know, like, Andrew Divoff in 1 and 2 was just top tier. Then you've got michaeltrucco, and it's really hard because Andrew Divoff portrayed the Djinn in both human form and as the Djinn, whereas now they've got two different characters, or two different actors playing the same character. They have a different feel to them as they move and talk. So yeah, it's kind of unfair to label them like that, but look, what can I say? Divoff, top job. These guys, not so much. So now on to the directing and the writing, and where this film tries to differentiate itself from others is through its exploration of more human themes. Lisa's wish to have Sam's condition reversed, combined with the Djinn's seductive offers, sets up a potentially compelling narrative, you know, about the dangers of manipulation and the corrupting influence of unchecked desire. Unfortunately, these themes are undercut by very clunky dialogue and a very inconsistent tone throughout the film. The film moves between trying to be emotionally driven story and a more traditional, I don't want to say horror film, but a more traditional horror film is probably the best way to describe it. And it never finds its footing in either. Yeah, this is sci-fi horror, and when I say sci-fi, I mean sci-fi channel horror, essentially. Yeah, and as a result, the emotional stakes are never fully realized, and the horror feels muted. Now, that comes down to two things. Firstly, it comes down to the writing, obviously, but also comes down to the production values, which didn't feel really existent in this. And I'll touch on that in the effects. But additionally, the performances given by our leads, we don't feel that desire, that real connection with them, which again comes down to the writing. If they don't have the right writing, what can they do? You know, there's a script, they read it, but if there's no emotion behind it, then it's really difficult to capture that audience. And that's what this one fails to do. It has that potential there because it could have really been something good. Now on to the special effects. And, well, we won't just start with the special effects. We'll talk about the effects in general. This film looks and feels like it did have a much lower budget than previous films. And look, the visual effects do show that, as well as the overall production value. It feels, I mentioned this earlier, like a sci-fi level film. And I don't have a problem with some sci-fi films providing they are handled well. Unfortunately, this one wasn't. Earlier movies had a realistic, grimy, practical effects heavy look, and that added to the charm. Now, don't get me wrong, this guy here, in practical effect, looks good. He does not look as good as 1 and 2, but he looks better than 3, which is weird because, I don't know, maybe it's just the lighting or something. There's a scene when he's outside and he's finding a bouncer. It looks good. Yeah, so, I don't know. The CGI in this is noticeably bad, and that does take out a lot of impact in some of the wishing scenes, and also this scene right here where we see his brethren on the other side, because the prophecy fulfilled in this one means that the 3 wishes have been granted. The Djinn come across from the hell or void or whatever hell they are into our world. Never quite happens. And you know what, I'm kind of glad it didn't, because it would have looked terrible. Judging by these guys, it would have looked bad. And that's the problem. These cheap looking effects and this lackluster production design are so hard to ignore in this one. You know, and it's especially for a series that once thrived on practical effects and over the top wishes and gore, like the first one, and even to an extent the second. Yeah, it is what it is. Rewatchability. So yeah, this is well, I'd like to say it's a tough one, but honestly, it's not. There are certainly improvements over the last entry. There is still a lot missing, you know, and what's missing from it is what made the first 2 films a vastly superior animal and more enjoyable. So will I rewatch this? Probably not. So, final verdict. And look, this is a largely forgettable entry and is a very dismal ending. Literally, the ending is shit. I did not like the ending. It kind of feels like they've just run out of money or something. Like maybe they ran out of film or something to shoot it on and they just wrapped it up really quickly. But yeah, it's not good. They do attempt to add a more human element to the film, and that's great and all, but yeah, you can try and ground it and have that connection, that human connection, but the film just fails to elicit any of that from the viewer. You know, it's interesting to see a franchise try something new by adding, you know, more emotional weight to it. But in doing so, if it's going to lose some of the fun and charm that made the earlier movies enjoyable, what's the point? And you see that with a lot of franchises. When they get to a certain point, they do try and inject something new, but a lot of the times, it's too little too late, or they remove something that made the previous films enjoyable. And that's what they've done here. Now, what's funny about this is watching these last 2 films, it's actually made me want to rate Wishmaster 2 a lot higher than I did. I think I gave that a 6. Look, after watching Wishmaster 3 and 4, it definitely goes up. But what would I give this out of 10? Well, Wishmaster 4, The Prophecy Fulfilled, 3.5 out of 10. Slightly better than Wishmaster 3, but just. There you have it. That is my review of Wishmaster 4, The Prophecy Fulfilled. where they didn't really fulfill the prophecy now, did they? Would have been nice to see the Djinn take over the world and everything end, but unfortunately not. Anyway, look, that is Wishmaster done and dusted. Cross that off the list. So I'd not seen the last two films, like Wishmaster 3 and 4, and I'm glad I did. Can't say that they were great films, but you know, that's the point of watching these movies. What I like, what I don't like. You know, I can't not watch a movie just because I might not like it. I need to see it and make that decision on my own. But anyway, enough of that. What have we got coming up next month? Well, it's October, so Halloween. Not just one day of Halloween, no, 31 days of Halloween. Yep. So if you've had a look at my previous videos, you'll know I am doing 31 days of Halloween. So that is 31 60-second or less reviews every day for Halloween month. But I'm also doing 31 episodes of the Treehouse of Horrors. Yes, that's right, Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors. I'll be watching the first one all the way through to 31, covering them all. I think there's like 30. There's over 30 of them, I know that, so I don't know how many there are. And I have not seen any of the more recent ones. The original ones I saw over and over again, like everyone. We saw them every year they came out, and they were great. It was so much fun, so I'm really looking forward to getting back into them. And I know I mentioned it before, JT has been doing some, you know, Simpsons Treehouse of Horror shorts. Definitely check them out. They're worth the watch. Great stuff. Great channel as well, so check it out. But I'm going to get going before I ramble on too much more. If you haven't, and you have gotten this far, hit that thumbs up button. It'd be much appreciated. And of course, subscribe to my channel so that way you're notified every time I do release a new review. Got those 31 days of Halloween coming up. And also check out the community page. Got a poll going up there. It's for November. Yep. It's going to be fun. Anyway, look, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.